right now in the markets. Everybody is wondering what's going to happen next. We're looking for ultimately a rally that should continue into the late part of April. We're looking at April 27th, possibly even as late as May 8th or 9th before it ends. However, short term, it looks as if there's going to be some turbulence here. There may be some decline, and it may have some difficulties until next week, until the 12th or 13th, where it could go down, and then potentially even have one more low around the 18th. And then we expect the later part of the month for the market to shoot back up again and take out these most recent highs. So that's the short term. But I wanted to look at some of the cycles that are running through the market right now. One of them was very interesting. It's the famous 4 lunar month cycle. And it turns out, if you look over the last 2 years, and you see it in this chart, the last 6 times in a row that cycle came in at a high point, it has been remarkably on target. The next point that was due is coming in on the 10th of April. So that's one of the reasons we're thinking there may be some downside action for a few days here. Likelihood is on the 10th, 11th, 12th, and then a little bit further into the month, there could be some weakness. Don't expect the trend to turn back down yet. After early May, however, we're looking for a sharp down move that's likely to happen in the month of May and end by June 4th. Okay, that's the story in terms of the short-term swings. Now, I wanted to point out a very interesting situation that's occurring. If you look at this chart, you'll see that since the October low, there's a structure that seems to be emerging. And in Elliott wave terms, you might call it a 1 and an ABC for a 2, and then possibly we're in a third wave up, which could continue on until the late part of the month. What's interesting is, if you look at the median line projection, which is the Andrews median line, you see that line that runs up through that on a diagonal. And it turns out if the 1 wave and the 3 wave are of the same size, which is often the case, the projection of the high comes out exactly where the median line meets the other date on the 27th of April. So there's a pretty good chance that that's what's going to happen. We'll have a continued rally with some turbulence into next week first. And then we go down hard in May because that 1, 2, 3 structure will have finished by then, and then you'd expect to see a release to the downside, possible retest of the low area that we've seen in October. However, we don't expect October lows to get taken out. The other thing we've mentioned repeatedly is that this pattern is very much in line with the 1987 market, and that rallies after June all the way to September. And the 1929 market that rallies starting in June all the way to September, and then it crashes. And 87, we had the similar pattern in a 36 trading day decline into late October. So we're looking for the fourth quarter to be horrendous, actually. But nevertheless, until we see the high in September, we're still bullish. And we are also looking for a low early June before a decent rally over the summer. Now, what's interesting also, this is important, is that the planet Jupiter in the Vedic system is moving into the sign of Aries on the 22nd of April. And historically, if you look back every 12 years, the 11.86-year cycle, when it first enters the sign of Aries, there's very often a high of some sort in the market. Since the 22nd of April is pretty close to the end of the month, and these things are not exact to the day, we would expect that it fulfills and reinforces the idea that we're going to have a 1-month decline in the month of May, starting late April into early June. Okay, it's happened almost every time, all the way back to 1920s when we checked it. Okay, but then in many cases, as in 87, which by the way Jupiter was in Aries, as in 1929, and also Jupiter was in Aries, the market rallied first. It first has this big swing up, throwing out the shorts from the market before it crashes. And that's what we're expecting this year. However, be aware that there were 2 cases in 1940 and in 2011 where Jupiter came in, and the decline in May was very large. And then the rally wasn't as big, and so the beginning of the decline started at the beginning of May. So ergo, stay careful after the late part of this month. There could be a serious decline until early June. We don't favor that. We think it's less likely. We think it's about a 20% chance. But it is a possibility, and we want you to be aware not to be particularly bullish until early June.